Because the marriage was fake, they each lay on separate sides. However, under the effects of the 2 glasses of medicine, Pi began to react. When the newlyweds went to greet everyone in the morning, the father was very pleased to see that his son was in a weakened state, constantly praising Grandma's medicine for being so potent. He didn't know that after drinking 2 glasses of medicine, Pi had been burning up in the middle of the night, then had run to the bathroom and had diarrhea all night, leaving his body completely exhausted. Seeing the once violent man from the day before, who could now be knocked down with just a finger, Swoi felt a lot of pity for him and let him lie on the bed. That night, Pi suddenly had a nightmare, asking the man in his dream why he was doing this, and his hand was reaching towards Swoi, asking why he was doing that to her. Swoi couldn't breathe, so she slapped him to wake him up. Grandma thought that her grandson was tired from making a baby last night, so she prepared breakfast to boost his energy. As for Swoi, after a sleepless night of taking care of Pi, she only wanted a cup of coffee to wake up. Pi's mother reminded her that she would teach her how to be a proper wife and daughter-in-law. Swoi was very unhappy, but couldn't argue back. Pi saw that she didn't want to be with his mother, so he asked her to come work with him on the farm. But Swoi was angry and didn't want to go anywhere. While they were struggling, they accidentally knocked over a picture on the table. Swoi asked who the man in the picture was, and Pi said it was his younger brother, who couldn't attend their wedding because he was always studying in the US. Under Pi's mother's arrangements, the first chore Swoi had to do was chop firewood. She chopped while constantly complaining. Suddenly, she saw someone secretly doing something on the opposite side, so she followed to investigate. She asked the person if they had stolen from the farm. When the man tried to run, Swoi picked up a stick and beat him up. But how could a weak woman fight back against a man? At this time, Pi ran up and demanded the man let go of his wife. The man tried to run away, but was caught by Pi, who then forced him to sit face down in a pile of cow dung. The man quickly apologized and said that he was Tong, who had worked at the farm for many years but had never done anything like that before. Pi's father asked Tong why he had stolen, and Tong admitted that he was in gambling debt and couldn't pay it back. Pi stepped forward and scolded him, saying that not only had he stolen, but he had also tried to hurt Swoi, and he warned Tong that if anything happened to Swoi, he wouldn't let it go. Tong apologized, saying he just wanted to scare her a little but couldn't control himself, and went too far. Pi's father seemed suspicious about who was running the gambling den nearby, and Tong said it didn't seem like anyone from the village. This man was not only handsome, but he also doted on his wife. Even though it was just a contract marriage, it seemed like real feelings were gradually developing. When his wife burned her hand while grinding chilies, he carefully applied medicine. When his mother arranged too many chores, he also felt pity and helped her. When his wife was blamed by her mother-in-law for not doing anything well, and then fiercely retorted, he stood by with an adoring smile. When Swoi checked the amount of fabric that Tong had stolen, she realized that there were issues with the ledger, but the servant snatched it away. She also asked about the purpose of the fabric pieces on the ground, and Proi explained that they were selected to be sent to merchants in the city. Swoi checked the quality and felt that sending them would only ruin their reputation. The servant was immediately unhappy, telling her not to keep causing trouble just because she was the owner and mocked her for not knowing anything about weaving. Swoi was so angry that she almost revealed her true identity, and Proi quickly found an excuse to pull her outside. The servant then embellished the story, making Pi's mother feel insulted, and she prepared to teach Swoi a lesson. Luckily, Proi arrived in time and clarified everything, saying that Swoi was right because the fabric shop owner had complained that they had sent flawed fabrics and had returned them all. Pi saw that Swoi was frustrated in the kitchen and came to help. Pi's mother saw this and told her son to quickly leave, then blamed Swoi for making a meal and having to rely on her husband for help, asking how she would become a good wife. Swoi responded by saying that she often saw her mother-in-law bossing her father-in-law around, and she wondered if that was a good wife. Pi's mother didn't know what to say, while Pi stood by with a doting smile. Seng came to tell Pi's mother some good news. A friend of hers was about to open a restaurant in the city and had specifically recommended their farm as a supplier of vegetables. This made Pi's mother extremely excited. Seng also volunteered to help make cakes, causing Pi's mother to constantly praise her for being gentle and skillful, unlike some clumsy people. Swoi restrained her anger and thought that everyone had their own strengths. Pi sensed the strong smell of gunpowder, fearing that a war was about to break out, and he quickly praised his wife for wrapping the cakes beautifully. Swoi confided in Grandma about how her mother-in-law was always making things difficult for her, and Grandma reminded her daughter-in-law that she should use her time to focus on the farm instead of causing trouble. Right now, all of their fabric had been returned and they couldn't sell it, which put even more pressure on her grandson. Swoi thought that the unsellable fabrics could be used for another purpose, and they just needed to figure out what to do with them so that they wouldn't be wasted. Grandma immediately saw a glimmer of hope. Swoi went to the neighboring farm, asking Ms. Ron to deliver a gift and return the outfit she had borrowed from Nim for the wedding. Thap came and said that the outfit was a gift from his uncle and didn't need to be returned, and also told Witra to return all of the cakes. Swoi knew that Thap had a conflict with Pai because of what happened to his sister, but she said it had nothing to do with her and told him not to act like a child. Thap asked that if his sister's death wasn't an accident, would Swoi still think that he was acting like a child? Because before his sister had her accident, someone had seen Pai and his sister arguing, and after the accident, only his sister was severely injured while Pai was unharmed, which was clearly suspicious. Swoi didn't believe that Pai was the person Thap described. When she went back home and started rummaging through the things that had been stored away, she was scolded by Pai. Swoi explained that she just wanted to learn about his ex-wife. Before she could finish, Pai lost control and grabbed her, asking her what she was about to say. Swoi was scared by Pai and quickly ran outside, then packed up her things to go back to her own room to sleep. Pai immediately apologized for his actions, but that just made Swoi even more scared. Pai reminded her not to forget about their agreement, but Swoi decided to cancel the agreement. At that moment, Pai saw his mother standing outside the door. His mother asked if they had gotten married because they had signed a secret agreement, and Pai admitted that they had an agreement not to argue after getting married, but they still hadn't been able to do it. His mother advised her son to get divorced soon, saying that staying together would only cause them more pain. But Swoi said that if Pai was just a bit more doting, she wouldn't be angry anymore, and she added that her mother-in-law also often argued with her father-in-law, but she never saw them get divorced. Pai's mother complained to her son that his wife was only good at arguing and nothing else. Grandma came in, saying that she would soon see Swoi's value, because she was planning to have Swoi help out at the fabric workshop. In the evening, Little Cow shouted that she had seen a ghost outside and ran into Pai's room, wanting to sleep with them. Under Little Cow's guidance, the two of them finally shared the same bed. Pai looked at his wife's exquisite beauty and smiled happily. It was probably the happiest morning he had had in many years. Little Cow woke up and blamed herself for being a third wheel the night before. Because of the faulty fabrics that had made customers unhappy, Swoi went to the city, personally apologized to each customer, and promised that in the future, they would select the best quality fabrics to send out. She had also conducted market research to understand which fabrics sold best, preparing for her takeover of the fabric workshop. On the way back, Pai saw Tom walk by and decided to follow him to find the exact location of the gambling den. At the same time, Pai's father also led some people there and found Uncle Pao was also there, making it clear that he was the one who opened the gambling den. They enthusiastically prepared to take photos to collect evidence, but were startled by a gunshot, causing the phone to fall to the ground. Lao spotted Pai and wanted to get rid of him. The gamblers scattered in all directions due to the chaos caused by the shooting. He ruined the business, angering Uncle Pao. He ordered Tong to find a new location and clean up the old one, leaving no evidence behind. Pai's father told his son about seeing Uncle Pao. Pai's mother overheard and said that her husband was old and had poor eyesight. How could someone as good as Uncle Pao open a gambling den? She told her son not to listen to his father's nonsense. Pai's father sadly drank to forget his sorrows and soon became drunk. He complained about his wife, saying she was bossy and didn't see the good in others. Swoi stepped forward to comfort him, saying that her mother-in-law might seem sharp on the outside, but she had a good heart and was actually a good person. Pai saw that his father was drunk and wanted to take him back to rest, but his father insisted on staying and sleeping on the sofa. Swoi was worried because she didn't want to sleep in the same bed with Pai again. Just as Pai was about to arrange a sleeping space on the floor, his father unexpectedly climbed through the window into their bedroom, complaining that the mosquitoes outside were unbearable, then took Pai's blanket and pillow to sleep there. In the end, they had to share the bed again, and Swoi didn't know what to do. The next day, Swoi drew a design, preparing to teach people how to use the flawed fabrics to make clothes. However, Wei overheard her plan. Swoi had invited the villagers to come and help, but they hadn't arrived. Seng came to mock her, saying that her project wasn't appealing, which was why people didn't want to participate. Proy learned that the villagers had changed their minds and didn't want to come. Wei and Seng, seeing this, were secretly delighted. Swoi was certain that Wei was collaborating with Seng to sabotage her and angrily wanted to confront her. Pai told her not to be angry with others just because things weren't going smoothly. Proy appeared to wholeheartedly support Swoi, pointing out that it was obvious to everyone that Seng was the one behind it. Swoi stated that if the product was completed, there would definitely be people who wanted to invest and everyone would have income, so she didn't understand why the villagers didn't see the business opportunity. While they were worried, Ms. Ron from the neighboring farm, on Nim's orders, led the villagers to come and help. It turned out that when facing difficulties, family was still the place to rely on. Pai met Thap at the new location of the gambling den and felt comforted to see that Thap was still the same person he knew. But they had just met when they started arguing about Naaman's situation. Lao, from the shadows, spotted them and thought that Pai would definitely not let the investigation of the gambling den go. He suggested that Uncle Pao deal with it quickly, but Uncle Pao wanted Pai to become his son-in-law, telling Lao to just deal with Thap. When Pai saw Lao, he quickly pushed Thap aside and faced them alone, defeating them. However, Thap was not grateful for this action. Proy saw the wound on Thap's hand afterward and very thoughtfully helped him bandage it. These small actions finally caused the young man to change his attitude towards her. Swoi focused on her career and wanted to buy some tools, hoping that Pai could give her some advance capital, but she was once again stopped by her mother-in-law. Seeing that the shopping list was full of expensive items, she was worried that her son's money would be wasted, so she tore it up. Having a mother-in-law like that was really exhausting. But Pai, always doting on his wife, quickly ran over, wanting to go shopping with her at the market. In the evening, Swoi was so busy working that she didn't have time to eat, so Pai, feeling sorry for his wife, stayed by her side and fed her. The whole farm was filled with a sweet atmosphere. Little Cow, who was by their side, felt very happy, like she had candy in her mouth. Swoi showed the design she had created to Grandma, and she liked both the dresses and the handbags very much. Swoi was confident that if they sold them on the market, they would definitely receive many orders. Proy said that there had been some customers who had wanted to order fabric before, but because Pai wasn't ready, they had been turned down. Swoi suggested organizing an event to attract investment and inviting the previous customers who had wanted to buy fabric. At that time, the orders would definitely come in continuously, and the villagers would also be more eager to participate in their project. Grandma completely agreed with Swoi's idea, and the workers immediately began preparing for the event. Swoi promised Pai that this time she would definitely satisfy the customers and receive orders for their products, and she also asked Pai to invite his mother to cut the ribbon at the opening. Pai watched Swoi dancing in the crowd, unable to hide his happy smile. Even though Swoi often argued with her mother-in-law, she didn't actually hate her. After the workers returned home from their patrol, Wei instructed a man to follow her orders. The next day, the event was suddenly sabotaged by others. In order to allow the event to continue smoothly, Swoi decided to reorganize. At this time, Pai received a call. The customers who were coming to participate in the event had had an accident. The driver said that he had been driving fine, but suddenly a car had intentionally pushed him, causing the accident. Luckily, all of the customers in the car had been taken to the hospital. Pai's mother, seeing that they had lost a large sum of money, continuously complained about Swoi, saying that she couldn't do anything successfully. Grandma reminded her daughter-in-law that her words were too harsh and that what had happened wasn't Swoi's fault. Despite how much Grandma and Proy tried to defend Swoi, Pai's mother still felt that she couldn't compare to Naaman. Grandma told her that she shouldn't bring up the deceased, and Pai's father also said that if she didn't understand, she shouldn't make unfounded comparisons. The happiest person when the event failed was Seng, and her younger brother also added fuel to the fire, saying that it was the result of stealing her sister's boyfriend. Uncle Pao also gloated over the disaster, saying that no one would want to cooperate with Swoi anymore. Seng realized that her father had set everything up for her own happiness. What a family they were. At this time, Swoi was hiding in a corner, quietly heartbroken, wondering if she was truly as useless as everyone said. Pai found her and comforted her, saying that no one would blame her, because everyone had seen her serious work ethic. To make Swoi feel more at ease, he decided to take her on a honeymoon. After she had relaxed, they would return to the farm and work. Pai's mother was furious when she found out that her son was taking Swoi on a honeymoon, saying that there were still so many damages to deal with, yet he was already taking his wife on vacation. Proy said that it was his brother who wanted to go on vacation, leaving Pai's mother speechless, and she had to swallow her anger. Just then, a young man unexpectedly rushed into their house, calling out, "Mom." Swoi thought that Pai would take her to a luxurious villa with a swimming pool, but unexpectedly, he took her to a camping field. Swoi flatly refused and screamed the whole way that she wanted to go to a villa with a swimming pool. Seng, like a wandering spirit, was helping her father collect debts when she discovered Pai's car parked there. She immediately went over there. She thought that the two of them were embarrassed because they had ruined the event and were hiding there. She reminded him that he shouldn't give useless people any more chances. Hearing Seng's mocking words, Swoi became enraged, implying that the person who had sabotaged the event might be standing right there. The two started to fight, and finally started to physically brawl. Pai stepped in and hugged Swoi to stop her, but unexpectedly, Seng fell into a mud pit. Swoi gloated, saying that her husband would definitely take his wife's side. While the servant was trying to pull Seng up, Swoi reached out her foot, causing the servant to fall on top of Seng. The two of them were flustered in the mud pit, making Swoi feel incredibly satisfied, her heart filled with the joy of revenge. Seeing his wife happy like a child, Pai's eyes were full of love. A worker brought Pai a bucket of water, so he could wash the mud off himself. He poured the water over his head, and this sensual action completely captured Swoi's attention. She couldn't take her eyes off him. Pai asked his wife to come down to the water to catch fish together, but she refused him mercilessly. However, immediately after that, Swoi mistook an eel she had caught for a snake and, panicked, jumped into the mud and hugged Pai. The scene was cheerful and extremely happy, completely disregarding the workers nearby who had to witness their lovey-dovey. Seeing that they had caught a lot of fish, Swoi asked Pai how he knew which mud puddles had fish. If they rented all of them and didn't find any fish, wouldn't that be a big loss? Pai said that in addition to experience, it also depended on luck, just like with business, which required courage to take risks and experience. For example, like handing the fabric workshop over to her, even though it was chaotic, he didn't blame her for daring to try. These comforting words made Swoi feel much better. That night, Swoi ate grilled fish and drank rice wine that the villagers had brought. Unexpectedly, she got drunk very quickly and started to cause trouble and staggered over to hug her husband. In that wonderful atmosphere, Pai was very restrained in order not to kiss his wife. In the middle of the night, Swoi woke up and went outside to cover Pai with a blanket. But as she was about to leave, she was suddenly pulled back by Pai, who told her not to make a sound. Two criminals had sneaked into their tent with the intention of harming them, but discovered that no one was there. Pai, hidden in the darkness, attacked them from behind. After the husband and wife worked together to defeat the men, they started to interrogate them about where they came from. At this time, some villagers came to ask for help, saying that criminals had also appeared in the area where they were growing crops. After Pai left, the criminal escaped his restraints and took Swoi hostage. While Pai was fighting with the criminals, Mrs. Pong fired a shot to threaten them and make them run away. After being rescued, Swoi angrily drove off after them, not forgetting to drag her husband with her. This time, Swoi was determined to find out who was behind it all, daring to ruin her honeymoon. However, on the road, they encountered a car accident, and seeing that the people on the road needed help, they were forced to stop to assist, temporarily stopping the chase. Proy asked Ms. Ron to inform the workers to wait a little longer because she wasn't sure what Swoi would do next. Thap directly threw cold water on the situation, telling them that if they couldn't do it, they should say so directly instead of having the workers wait in vain, and he asked Proy to tell her brother that the people of Nim's farm didn't want to be deceived again. He also warned that if they spoke badly about his brother again, he wouldn't hesitate to use his fists. This couple, who were destined to be at odds, would always argue every time they met, never finding peace. Ms. Ron teased them, saying that they were very likely a case of what you hate, you'll get. Proy resolutely swore that she would rather stay single for the rest of her life than fall in love with him. Seeing that Proy's leg was hurting and she couldn't walk, Ms. Ron asked Thap to take her home. Even though he complained, Thap obediently carried Proy back home. Because of the attack, Pai had to end his honeymoon early. Although he couldn't identify the perpetrators, he knew clearly who was behind it all. Natty appeared, happy that his brother had quickly returned, but Pai didn't feel excited at all to see his younger brother after so many years. Was there a conflict between them? When his younger brother wanted to help, Pai immediately refused his help. Pai's father quickly found a way to take Swoi upstairs to rest first, while Nahi wanted to talk with his brother tonight because their mother had organized a welcome party. In the evening, Pai's mother didn't stop complaining. If the house hadn't had so many problems, she could have organized a bigger welcome party for her son. Sang was by her side, constantly adding fuel to the fire. She thoughtfully took out a gift. Pai's father, being intelligent, immediately realized that this was her way of trying to buy everyone's affections. When Pai's mother happily wanted to help her son put on the gift, Nahi refused Seng's kindness. After dinner, the younger brother helped Swoi with the dishes and started to speak badly about his brother, saying that his brother often changed moods, sometimes good, sometimes bad, and that what everyone saw wasn't his real self. If she was with his brother, the joy would gradually decrease, and eventually there would only be bitterness. When they both touched the same plate, the younger brother even took the opportunity to hold Swoi's hand. Pai arrived just in time and, using the excuse that grandma was calling, chased his younger brother away. Pai went to his wife, asking her what she had talked about with his younger brother and that if she wanted to know about him, she should ask him directly and not his brother. But Swoi said she didn't want to know his complicated issues and that it was just his brother who kept talking. Swoi showed curiosity about what bad things Pai had done to make him so tense. Pai also reminded Swoi that whatever he did had nothing to do with her and she should just fulfill their agreement, and told her not to be alone with any other man in the future. While they were arguing, Pai saw his mother spying on them again, so he quickly hugged Swoi and started to show affection. The next day, the couple they had rescued from the accident came to thank them. Swoi also gifted the wife a handbag that she had made before as a souvenir. The foreign guest went around looking at their products, telling his wife that his company was looking for this type of product, but was worried that the large quantities would be too much for them to produce in time. Swoi, who understood French, quickly said that they could make it on time. Then, realizing that eavesdropping on other people's conversations was a bit impolite, she quickly shifted to asking if they were interested in silk products and invited them to see the silk production process at the farm. After that, Swoi excitedly told Pai that good luck was coming. Pai's mother, who had initially thought they were just normal tourists, blamed Swoi for overreacting and trying to show off as the owner. She was surprised when they handed over their business cards and introduced themselves as fabric importers in France who were very interested in the farms, silk, and wanted to cooperate. Pai's mother immediately changed her attitude and warmly welcomed them. Pai looked at his wife with admiration and love because Swoi had finally succeeded in doing something. However, Pai's mother immediately threw cold water on the situation, worrying that these two could be scammers and demanding that Pai investigate them carefully to avoid wasting money. His younger brother said that checking the company's information nowadays was not difficult, but the issue was whether Swoi really understood French. Pai's mother sarcastically said that she definitely didn't know, since even the local language went in one ear and out the other. But his younger brother disagreed, saying he thought that Swoi had hidden her abilities and hadn't let everyone know. Swoi quickly lied and said that she really didn't understand, but her younger brother still wondered how, every time the foreign guest wanted something, sister-in-law could immediately fulfill it. She explained that she was just guessing and had managed to fool them. In the end, Swoi had successfully helped secure the deal. Sahab came to survey the market and once again saw Swoi. To clarify whether the girl was Leyland, he followed Swoi.
He was about to
go forward and say hello when two criminals suddenly rushed out and beat him unconscious. Then they beat Nahi up as well, saying that he was being beaten because of his brother. When Pai witnessed it, he quickly rushed over to help. The commotion attracted the attention of passers-by, forcing the criminals to let go and quickly leave. It turned out that the criminal was Lau in disguise. Ms. Ron, who was passing by and witnessed it, asked if he was going to go fighting again. Lau angrily denied it and left. Back home, Nahi blamed his brother for going out and making enemies, also saying that next time, the person who would be hurt would definitely be Swoi, like Naaman back in the day. Before he could finish, Pai angrily said that he would never let that happen again. Swoi quickly pulled Pai away to tend to his wounds. Pai blamed himself, saying that it would have been better if he hadn't listened and gone with his younger brother. If it wasn't for what had happened today, Swoi explained that he had gone out to discuss farm business, not to play. Pai wondered why they didn't meet at the farm and had to go out, and what if they encountered someone who had wanted to harm them before. But Swoi felt that Pai was just worried his younger brother would reveal his secrets. She told him to relax because she would leave in a few months. In his heart, a sadness rose up. He sarcastically said that he had almost forgotten. She was only staying here to wait to go somewhere else to start a new life, and that everyone on the 2 farms were just passers-by. These words directly angered Swoy. Uncle Pao brought Sahop back from the hospital and, for safety reasons, asked him to stay at his place overnight. Sahop took out a picture of Swoy, asking Uncle Pao if he recognized her. After seeing the picture, Uncle Pao was shocked and immediately called Leyland's mother, sending the picture to her. When Leyland's mother realized that it was her daughter, Leyland, she quickly asked Sahop where the picture had been taken. Hearing that Swoy was going to sign a contract with foreigners, everyone in the village had come, wanting to cooperate with Swoy and confessing that the reason they couldn't make it before was because of Seng. Swoy generously said that having help was always better than having none. Grandma decided that the contract signing day should be made grand, so that everyone in the village would know, to provoke those who had looked down on Swoy's project and those who had created obstacles. On the contract signing day, the foreign wife couldn't find Swoy anywhere. Pai explained that Swoy was preparing new products to present to everyone. Swoy, wearing the dress she had designed, slowly walked out, and everyone praised how beautiful it was. Pai was once again captivated by his wife's beauty. Swoy confidently introduced her new silk designs to everyone and received praise from the French couple. They praised Swoy for being outstanding and said that she and Pai were a match made in heaven. After a successful presentation and signing the contract, Swoy, overexcited, used fluent French to thank them for choosing Pai's farm. Pai and everyone present were surprised. Swoy quickly pretended that she had secretly learned and practiced it repeatedly at home. When Sahop and Leyland's mother appeared at the scene, it turned out that they were shareholders of the French couple's company. Swoy, seeing her mother, was very worried about being exposed, but because she didn't want the event to be ruined, she had no choice but to go on stage to speak. Leyland's mother was both shocked and happy to see that her daughter was still alive, but Swoy didn't recognize her mother, asserting that she was a local who had been married and lived here for a long time. Sahop advised Leyland's mother to stay calm and not rush things. Therefore, she pretended to want to tour the farm so that she could stay and learn the truth. Swoy, knowing her mother's living habits, wanted her to leave soon, so she intentionally put a lot of chili peppers into the food and prepared the field mouse, which her mother hated most, to treat her. Sahop reasoned that Leyland usually never went into the kitchen, so this clearly wasn't her. The important thing was that he couldn't stomach the food and wanted to leave soon. At this moment, Swoy brought out another dish, a curry with beef, which completely shocked Leyland's mother. But she had underestimated a mother's love. Leyland's mother not only wanted to stay, but also invited Pai and Swoy to sit down and enjoy the meal together. Swoy, just by looking at her own cooking, already found it hard to swallow, but to avoid being discovered, she had to try hard to eat and pretend to praise it. Then she wanted Sahop to try the beef. While refusing, he intentionally spilled it on her mother, hoping she would go back to the hotel to change clothes. But Leyland's mother still didn't intend to leave. When she went into the changing room, she demanded Swoy tell the truth about what had happened, but Swoy insisted that she had mistaken her for someone else. Leyland's mother decided to check if Swoy had a scar on her right leg. As she was about to lift her skirt, Pai unexpectedly rushed in, asking what they were planning to do. And Leyland's mother received a message from Nat, saying that they had found Leyland's body, making her feel like her world had collapsed. Pai once again insisted that he and Swoy had known each other since childhood, and that she was definitely not her daughter. Leyland's mother tearfully apologized to them for misunderstanding. Swoy watched her mother leave, her heart filled with complex emotions. To survive safely, she had no choice but to lie. When she turned around, she saw Nim facing her, asking what was wrong. Swoy said she had just gotten sand in her eye, and quickly left. Nat lied that the police had mistaken Leyland's body for another family's, so they couldn't meet her one last time before the cremation, and all that was left was Leyland's personal belongings. Leyland's mother looked at the necklace she had given her daughter for her birthday last year, and all that was left were tears. It turned out that Nat had secretly gone into Leyland's room, taken the necklace she often wore, and created a scheme with a fake passport and ashes to convince Leyland's mother that her daughter had passed away. Sahop, using the excuse of discussing business, wanted her phone number. When he learned that she didn't have a phone, he decided to give her one. Pai, watching with jealousy, quickly pulled Swoy away, saying that his wife didn't need other people to buy her things. So Pai spent money to buy Swoy the newest phone, while also demanding that she only use it for work. When Swoy opened her phone to catch up on the news, she unexpectedly saw the news about Ket announcing her engagement with Sahop. She couldn't help but feel sorry for Sahop that he still hadn't realized Ket's true evil face. Pai once again felt jealous, thinking that Swoi was concerned about her ex-boyfriend because she wanted to get back together with him, and reminded Swoi that she was still his wife. Swoi, not wanting to argue, turned away. Swoi asked Little Calm to go down to the water to help find her key, and that she would pay him after he found it, but the condition was that he couldn't tell anyone about it. Little Calm immediately agreed, and reminded Swoi not to forget their promise. When Pai heard this, he asked Little Calm what the agreement was, but Little Calm used the excuse that his mother had told him to go home to eat to quickly leave. But along the way, he was stopped by Nim, who asked him what Swoi had asked him to do in the river, and Little Calm truthfully said that he had been asked to help find an important key. Today, Pai's mother asked her daughter to take Sahop out to play, hoping to match them up. But Sahop invited Swoi, and as they were about to leave the pier, their sworn enemy, Thap, appeared, saying that the pier belonged to their farm and outsiders weren't allowed to use it. While they were arguing, they accidentally pushed Proy into the river. After climbing out, she slapped Thap, blaming him for how many people in their family had to suffer because of this hatred before he could let it go. Sahop, being afraid of the water, tightly hugged Swoi on the boat. A passerby unintentionally saw it and took a picture, and the news quickly spread from one end of the village to the other. Seng, upon hearing the story, couldn't help but feel excited. Pai's mother was angry at Swoi's actions, saying that she was behaving as if she didn't have a husband. Pai's father reminded his wife to speak carefully, as it wouldn't be good if her son heard it. However, Pai was standing right at the door, hearing everything. Seng went to the farm to cause trouble, saying that Pai was truly generous to let his wife spend so much time alone with another man. Swoi scornfully told her not to come to the farm to cause trouble, and then wanted to go somewhere else with Sahop to discuss work. Pai, filled with jealousy, took his anger out on the workers. That night, while drinking with the workers, the older, more experienced men reminded Pai to go home soon, worried that he would get scolded by his wife if he stayed out too late. The person who had just mentioned it was immediately proven right. Swoi arrived and told everyone to immediately disperse and go to bed. However, Pai declared that anyone who left would be fired. Swoi, angered, flipped their table of drinks and ordered Pai to go home immediately. The workers, terrified, cowered in a corner, not daring to breathe loudly. Swoi asked Pai if he was angry about what happened with Sahop. In a drunken state, Pai kissed Swoi, but Swoi directly slapped him. Pai's parents, who had unintentionally witnessed their son being slapped, angrily wanted to find Swoi to settle the score.
Swoi glanced
at Pai, then angrily left, thinking about the kiss from earlier, assuming it was due to being drunk. Pai sat alone in the room, looking miserable. The next day, Grandma prepared lunch for Swoi to bring to Pai, hoping to create an opportunity for them to resolve their conflict. But Seng also came to bring lunch for Pai at the same time. To provoke Swoi, Pai chose Seng's lunch. After Swoi left, Pai used the excuse of being busy and not having time to eat to ask Seng to take the lunch to the workers. On the way back, Swoi met Nati, who advised Swoi to leave Pai soon. After marrying Naaman, they also often argued, mainly due to Pai's hot temper. Whenever he couldn't control his emotions, everything became very scary. After finishing his words, Nati complacently left, but this action was witnessed by Pai's father, and he angrily wanted to hit his son. But Nati felt that his father always protected his older brother, and that everything that had happened was because of him. If Pai wasn't so stubborn and selfish, maybe Naaman wouldn't have passed away. 3 years ago, when Nati was being intimate with someone else, Naaman unintentionally saw it. She angrily stepped forward and slapped him, scolding him for being a cheater. Therefore, when Pai proposed to Naaman, she quickly agreed out of anger. They didn't know that from behind, Nati was also holding a bouquet of flowers, preparing to apologize to Naaman, but he had witnessed this scene instead. Swoi remembered what her brother-in-law had just said. She didn't believe that Pai could hide his cruel side so well. But at this moment, a scene made her believe it. Pai, stimulated by his brother's words, angrily punched a large tree to release his emotions. Swoi was terrified by this violent action. After that, she secretly followed Pai to a shed and heard loud shouts from inside. The workers nearby, looking a little scared, advised him to be gentle. Next, a worker was carried outside, while Pai's hands were still covered in fresh blood. Swoi couldn't believe that Pai would be so cruel to the workers and also feared that he would treat her the same way in the future. She quickly ran back into the house. Pai also followed her inside, carrying the lunchbox she had forgotten. seeing him get closer to her. Swoi trembled with fear, quickly explaining that she hadn't gone there and hadn't seen anything. But he only said that a friend was coming to visit and that he would be gone for a few days. Grandma, knowing that her grandson was going to sleep outside, was very angry, worried that the villagers would start making up all sorts of rumors again. Swoi comforted her, saying that she shouldn't care about what other people thought. But Grandma explained that even if she didn't care, it would still cause trouble. She patiently advised Swoi to go find Pai and convince him to come home to sleep. The friend told Pai that many of Uncle Pau's projects were not right and that he had decided to investigate them thoroughly. Otherwise, the villagers would be in trouble. However, their investigation of the project was discovered by Uncle Pao, who warned Pai not to go looking for trouble, or things would not end well for him. At this time, Ken was being taught a lesson by Uncle Pao's subordinates. Luckily, Nim and Pai arrived just in time, and the two worked together to resolve the problem in a few minutes. Nim asked Pai to recount what he had investigated, and they would work together to resolve it. If Uncle Pao's projects were affecting the villagers, he certainly wouldn't sit by idly. Sahop, unable to contact Swoi, asked Proi to meet him to find out some information. Proi told him about the villagers gossiping about their relationship and advised Sahop to keep his distance from his sister-in-law during this time. Thap came to apologize to Proi, asking when they had become so close. Meanwhile, Ket also arrived and, without saying a word, slapped Proi. Before going to find Pai, Swoi decided to drink a cup of coffee, but witnessed a chaotic scene at the coffee shop. Ket was scolding Proi for not being able to find a man and for trying to steal someone else's husband. Sahop angrily told Ket that he was not engaged to her. Ket, in turn, said that Sahop didn't want to get engaged because of Proi. Swoi stepped forward and forcefully threw a glass of water into Ket's face. When she saw Swoi, Ket instantly froze, unable to believe her eyes. Swoi asked her why she looked like she had seen a ghost, asking if she had done something bad. Ket wanted to retaliate, but her face was forced down into a dish instead. If it weren't for Thap and Proi pulling them apart, today would definitely have been Ket's last day. Sahop blamed Ket for causing such a mess, asking how they could do business with their farm in the future. He told Ket to go back to Bangkok soon and not to interfere with his work anymore. When Seng saw this, she approached Ket, and the two scheming women met, which meant that something bad was probably about to happen again. She told Ket that the person who Sahop was truly attached to was Swoi. Sahop went to Proi to apologize and invite her to his room to help him take his medicine. Swoi refused, fearing that she would get bitten by the mad dog again. Meanwhile, Ket came to mock her for trying to seduce other people's husbands, even chasing after them to their hotel. When Pai saw this, he quickly stepped forward, asking why they were here. Sahop asked Ket to stop causing trouble and introduced Pai as the owner of the farm that he was cooperating with, as well as Swoi's husband and Proi's brother. Not wanting to deal with the mad dog, Proi asked her brother to take them home. Ket said that Swoi, in both appearance and cruel personality, if no one said anything, everyone would definitely think she was Leyland. Sahop asked her to use a better tone when referring to the deceased. Back home, Pai wanted to check if Swoi was hurt, but Swoi was so scared that she avoided him by a good 10 feet. When a worker came to report that the pig pen issue had been resolved, Swoi quickly ran outside. From what the worker said, she learned that the pigs in the farm had been discovered to have a disease and had been quarantined. Just as she was about to ask about her pet pig, the worker handed her a small outfit for a pig. Thinking that her pet had passed away, Swoi, in grief, decided to find Pai to demand justice. When she saw that her husband was refusing to admit it, she intended to go into the house to find evidence, but as a result, she stepped on a nail, making Pai extremely worried. It turned out that the worker she had seen injured yesterday had also stepped on a nail, and when Pai helped remove the nail, the blood had gotten on his hand, causing Swoi to misunderstand. After learning the truth, Swoi felt confused and embarrassed. Just then, Little Cow brought the little pig over, making Swoi incredibly happy. It turned out that Pai had taken the pig to get checked because he was afraid it might be infected, and luckily, it was still healthy. Pai sarcastically said that all he could do was be cruel like that. Swoi, embarrassed, immediately tried to smooth things over by showing concern for Pai, promising herself that she wouldn't have any prejudices against him in the future. After getting married, Leyland's mother wanted to try the role of a homemaker, not wanting to be like before, focusing only on work and not having time to care about others. The company had also followed her younger sister's advice and handed over all the power to Nat. She was about to go into the kitchen when she accidentally bumped into the maid. Seeing the lipstick mark on Nat's shirt, her younger sister quickly explained that Nat was a famous person and that it was not unusual to get lipstick on him when taking pictures. She told her not to let small things affect her marriage. Unexpectedly, the lipstick mark on the shirt was actually from her younger sister, who was secretly seeing Nat behind Leyland's mother's back, planning to seize all her sister's assets. Nat was still thinking about the missing key. Leyland's mother still hadn't returned to work, so Witra told him to be patient and that he would continue to persuade her. Sahab invited Swoy out to eat to apologize for what happened before. He expressed that Swoy was truly very similar to his ex-girlfriend, but that Swoy was more mature and reasonable. If Leyland had been like her, perhaps they would have lived more harmoniously. Swoy said that no one was perfect and that no one was born outstanding and smarter than others. Even she was sometimes unreasonable, and her husband couldn't stand it either. Sahab admitted that perhaps he was impatient and had easily trusted others, which is why he broke up with Leyland. Swoy, taking advantage of Sahab's going to the restroom, used his phone to take a picture and send it to Ket. Seng was extremely excited, and the two women had now decided to work together. Nat praised Swoy for designing so many products, making the farm's business prosperous. He used the excuse that Swoy's leg was still hurting and insisted on helping her walk, then took the opportunity to hug her, waiting for the hidden workers to take pictures. Swoy, following Nathy's gaze, realized what was happening and forbade him from coming near her again. Swoy found the worker and demanded that she delete the photos. But the worker pushed her away and escaped. Pai arrived and asked Swoy what had happened. Seeing the worker disappear without a trace, Swoy suspected whether they were there to steal the farm's secrets. Pai told her not to think too much, saying that the farm didn't have any secrets. The next day, when they went to the village to help prepare for the activities, the villagers avoided Swoy, and some even scolded her for being shameless. Pai saw pictures of Swoy and his younger brother, along with Sahab. Seng was extremely pleased in the dark. Swoy wanted to step forward and start a fight, but was pulled away by Pai. Pai held up the picture and asked his younger brother if he had done this. His younger brother, in turn, said that his older brother didn't trust him or Swoy, which was why he was so angry. Pai said that he never doubted anyone, but that he didn't understand why his younger brother kept causing trouble. It wasn't only Swoy who was being troubled, but their farm would also be implicated. The younger brother directly said that his older brother should transfer Naaman's land to him, then sell it to Uncle Pao and move to China, never to return. Pai immediately refused, but his younger brother scolded him for not being worthy of Naaman's wealth, because someone else had replaced Naaman in his heart. But Pai said that no one could replace Naaman in his heart. These words were heard by Swoy, and her heart suddenly felt extremely painful. This woman was too cruel. After meeting her rival in love on the road, she suddenly had a wicked idea. Without any hesitation, she stepped on the gas and slammed into her. Seeing her rival roll down the slope, she felt very proud. Just recently, Sahab had come to the farm to find Swoy, but he was stopped by the workers outside. Proy asked him not to come here during this time, to avoid the villagers gossiping. Ket also came, wanting him to go back to Bangkok with her, but he exposed her, saying that only she would resort to such dirty tactics. Sahab regretted not having believed Leyland before. But Ket not only didn't repent, but also said that Sahab wanted to leave her for another woman. Sahab declared that, no matter what, he would never marry someone like her. This made Ket hate Swoy even more. On the way back, as soon as she saw Swoy, she stepped on the gas and rammed into her. Swoy, terrified, rolled down the slope. In the evening, Pai, worried, couldn't find Swoy at home. Hearing the servants say that Swoy had ridden her bicycle out, he quickly went looking for her. Seeing tire tracks in the forest, he followed the trail to search for her. On the way, he saw Swoy's dropped phone and became even more worried. At this moment, Swoy finally came out of the forest and onto the main road. While she was rejoicing that she had escaped, she suddenly felt that the space around her was very gloomy and scary. She immediately prayed to heaven, hoping to be protected by the gods. Indeed, with divine blessing, Pai found her. Seeing that Swoy wasn't hurt, but was still stubborn and always made him worry, Swoy teased him, saying that when he had hugged her he was out of breath, probably because he was worried. Even though he was exposed, Pai still didn't want to admit it. Seeing that Swoy's leg was hurt, he carried her back home. Swoy explained about the photo, that she had sent it to Ket to provoke her first. She hadn't expected things to become so chaotic. Pai comforted her, telling her not to mind the rumors outside and just hoped that she wouldn't do anything to make him worry again. Then, in a moment of strong emotion, they were about to kiss when little cow arrived with medicine, breaking the atmosphere. The next day, Swoi went away, promising that she wouldn't tell Pai about her having stolen the silk fabric, but in return, she wanted to know about Naaman. As they were about to go somewhere else to talk, Pai's mother came out, accusing the servant of betraying her and running after a new owner. Wei quickly explained that Swoi had wanted to ask her about Naaman. Pai's mother said that Swoi shouldn't be jealous of someone who had passed away. That night, Pai was looking at Uncle Pao's land investment project, wanting to understand it thoroughly. He didn't want the villagers to suffer any losses, not even the slightest bit. Seeing her husband working so diligently for others, Swoi said that if he needed any help, he should just ask her. So Pai asked her to do what she did best, which was to be his pillow. Pai was lost in love, his voice becoming gentle, his eyes full of affection as he looked at Swoi, not wanting to look away for even a second. Elsewhere, Leyland's mother, because she trusted her younger sister too much, had given Nat and Witra full authority to handle everything in the company. She had no idea that her younger sister had been harboring resentment for decades. Leyland's mother, because she was intelligent and capable, was always her father's pride, and he had also given the company to her to manage. Conversely, he greatly looked down on Witra for not being able to do anything and for never being successful at anything. From that moment on, she had decided to take down her talented older sister, wanting to know how her father would feel when he saw his older daughter fall. Moreover, Leyland's mother and her husband's divorce was actually caused by Witra's meddling behind the scenes. The two of them went to survey Uncle Pao's new project, and Sahop wanted to confirm and see if the villagers would hinder the project. The project would bring prosperity to their land, and no one would oppose it. However, because he had sent people to block the way, preventing the villagers from understanding the project, he faced strong opposition from everyone. Lao led his men to suppress them, and Thap felt that he needed to intervene in time. He hadn't expected Lao to treat the villagers like that. At this moment, a subordinate informed Lao that Pai had gone in from another road, and he quickly led his men away to intercept Pai. After receiving the information, Uncle Pao decided to go to the hotel to discuss the matter, but was stopped by Pai. Pai emphasized that this project would cause trouble for the villagers, and Uncle Pao insisted that his project was legal and valid, and that it would even increase the value of the people's land. But he was hiding the fact that he was cutting off the water supply, which was equal to cutting off the fishermen's source of income, including the loss of all their existing resources. In the contract, only Uncle Pao was responsible for the project, which made it clear that he would be the one who benefited the most. Sahop and the other two investors decided on the spot to withdraw from the investment. Witra also proposed that if they wanted to continue cooperating, they would need to adjust the distribution of benefits in the contract. Moreover, the conflict with the villagers had made them worried about whether the project would go smoothly. Uncle Pao promised to take care of the villagers' issues. When Witra was about to report the situation to her sister, Nat wanted to try something different with her first, completely unaware that Swoi was secretly watching them. Before Swoi could reveal their illicit relationship, Sahop appeared behind him, wanting to take him to see Witra, and Nat luckily Pai arrived in time to save the day and take Swoi away. On the way back, they met Nim, who expressed his gratitude for their help earlier, but Thap said that their business wouldn't end easily. Proy, angered, said that one day he would regret this. Seng came to the farm, saying that her father's project was legal and that otherwise, he wouldn't have run for village chief. Everyone was surprised to hear that Uncle Pao was running for village chief. It turned out that the old village chief was going to Bangkok for treatment and had resigned. Pai's mother continuously flattered him, praising Uncle Pao for truly being a good person. Seng brought gifts, wanting to bribe them to vote for her father. Swoi asked Proy about what she had said to Thap, but Proy lied, saying that it was probably due to being too rushed, and she didn't know what she was saying. This made Swoi even more certain that there was definitely something she didn't know. Pai angrily asked her why she kept investigating Naaman's affairs, and if she was getting too immersed in the role of a wife. Swoi said that she was very clear about her purpose for staying here, that she was only an outsider and shouldn't interfere in other people's private matters. Nathi, in his brother's room, was looking for Naaman's original land deed, but discovered the marriage contract instead. Pai wanted to take it back, but his younger brother said that it was just an old piece of paper and a notebook, so why was he so worried? And he asked his older brother and Swoi if they were hiding something, as their relationship didn't seem like that of a real married couple. If he investigated a little, it wouldn't be hard to find out the truth. He pressed Pi, saying that if he didn't want him to interfere in this, then he should give him Naaman's original land deed. Pi angrily chased his younger brother out, but saw Swoi standing at the door. His younger brother advised Pi to think carefully about what he had just said. Swoi followed Nathi, asking him why he was so angry with his brother about Naaman's situation. The people on Nim's farm had a reason to be angry, and that could be understood, but he was Pi's younger brother. Nathi wanted to exchange information about his and his brother's secret for information about Naaman, but Swoi didn't agree. Nathi was curious about when her and his brother's relationship started, and how they had suddenly gotten married. Swoi struggled to break free. The village's annual festival was coming up, and the beauty contest had arrived. Ket said that if their farm won this time, she was sure that Pi's father would win the hearts of the villagers. Then, when he ran for village chief, his votes would definitely be very high. These flattering words almost made Pi's father fly up to the sky. With his son's help, he became even more confident. Nathi, seeing them hugging each other happily, felt jealous, feeling like his father only had his older brother in his eyes. His father stepped forward to comfort him, saying that his two sons were equally important. But Nathi felt that his brother's positions in his father's heart were not the same, thinking that it would still be better to stay away in the future. Uncle Pao, knowing that Pi's father would be running for village chief against him, ordered Lao to sabotage Pi's farm's rocket, wanting to make the villagers lose faith in their farm. The girls who were preparing for the contest refused the outfits that were provided by Pi's farm. It turned out that Seng and Ket had gone to bribe these girls, saying that they would sponsor outfits for the girls participating in the contest. But Swoi didn't pay any attention to these matters, mocking that Sahop would never love her. On the way home, Swoi met Sahop, who wanted help clarify the misunderstandings between them and the villagers. Just then, Pi, jealous, ran over and showed affection, saying that if he really wanted to help, then he should stay away from his wife. Thap came to apologize to Proi for having caused her to fall into the water, which made Proi's jaw drop in surprise. Thap said that the feud between him and Pi would not affect Proi anymore, and that he would try to get along with her. Proi also accepted his apology. Looking at Thap at this moment, she couldn't help but recall the memories between the two of them from before. Proi used to bring cake for Naaman and Thap also often rode his bicycle to take her home. Just when she decided to reconcile with Thap, another girl suddenly appeared, hugging Thap. Proi stood up, glanced at the girl, and angrily left. On the day of the festival, in order to win the hearts of the people and run for village chief, Uncle Pao spent a large sum of money on prizes. The first to launch their rocket was Nim's farm, which had won the championship for the past 4 years in a row. At this moment, the other girl ran out to wipe the sweat off of Thap and give him water, and Proi couldn't help but feel jealous. The rocket from Pao's farm, as always, didn't disappoint everyone. When Pi went to light the rocket, Swoi yelled loudly, wanting to run and stop him, but she was held back by the villagers. It turned out that while Swoi was following Little Cow to the restroom, she had accidentally overheard a conversation between Lao and his subordinate, saying that when Pi's farm's rocket exploded, the villagers would know that they had placed their trust in the wrong people and would lose terribly. Pi didn't hear her yelling at all. When Pi was proceeding to light the rocket, Swoi tried her best to struggle free. She quickly ran in front, pushed Pi to the ground, and protected him safely. However, the rocket not only remained intact, but it also flew the highest. Everyone cheered in victory. Only Uncle Pao was very angry, scolding Lao for being useless. Lao was also very confused about what had happened. Swoi, running to save her husband, immediately made it a public display of affection, and the two looked at each other passionately. Seeing his wife risk herself to save him, Pi's heart was filled with joy. It turned out that when Lao sabotaged the rocket, Little Cow had witnessed it. Swoi said that if she had known, she wouldn't have run over there to embarrass herself. Uncle Pao very reluctantly gave the prize to Pi's father, and Pi's father donated all the money to the temple and added 20,000 under his wife's name. Upon hearing the news, Pi's mother fainted on the spot, but the villagers praised Pi's father greatly. Nim comforted the workers, telling them that they shouldn't be discouraged. Losing this time was to gain experience, and hopefully they would win again next year. After that, he gave the workers money so that they could go rest, and this warm scene made Swoi admire and respect Nim even more. Uncle Pao was angry that he had spent money but hadn't received any praise. On the contrary, he had made Pi's father receive more praise. Sang comforted her father, saying that she would win back honor for him at the beauty contest in the evening. Lao, because he had lost the bet, had no money to pay the villagers, so he decided to run away, but he was caught red-handed. Wei's husband, while chasing him, met his wife and forced her to give him money. When she didn't give it to him, he started to use violence. Pai and Swoi, who were passing by, quickly ran over to intervene. However, the husband immediately betrayed his wife, revealing that she had sold the stolen silk fabric from the farm to earn money.
Pai,
After thinking about it, decided not to pursue charges against the servant, but Wei wouldn't be able to continue working at the farm anymore. Swoi begged him, saying that it was because her husband was addicted to gambling that she had done this, and that she hoped that Pai could give the servant another chance. Sahop gave Swoi a pair of earrings, hoping that she would shine in the contest, and see it as compensation for the trouble before. But when he left, Ket directly snatched them away, and warned Swoi that if she didn't want the picture to be circulated, then she should stop bothering Sahop immediately. Swoi had already guessed that Ket was behind it. She had hired someone to come to the farm to take pictures, causing the villagers to misunderstand her, and mocked Ket for wasting her efforts. Ket threatened that if Swoi didn't stop, she would do things that Swoi couldn't imagine. Grandma had sent clothes and jewelry for Swoi, hoping that she would prepare well to participate in the contest in the evening and try to win the championship, just like she had when she was young. In the evening, when Swoi appeared, she made everyone gasp in amazement, especially Pai, who couldn't take his eyes off her. Ket, as the sponsor, went on stage to cheer for the contestants and hoped that everyone would choose the ones with good qualities, not those who were shameless and did things that went against morality. People were buzzing like a broken beehive, eagerly giving roses to their favorite contestant. However, on the stage, only Swoi and Proi were empty-handed. This injustice was too obvious, and Thap couldn't watch anymore. He stepped forward and gestured to give flowers to Proi. Just as Proi was happily stepping forward to receive them, the girl from before suddenly appeared and snatched the bouquet. Thap couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Pai's parents quickly stepped forward and gave flowers to their beautiful daughter. The servant on the side mocked Swoi for not having anyone to give her flowers. Just as Swoi was feeling sad, Pai and Nim went together to give her flowers. Swoi happily stepped forward to receive them. However, Sang intentionally tripped her, wanting to embarrass her in front of everyone. Luckily, Pai caught her in time, accidentally creating a romantic scene. When Swoi received flowers from Nim, Pai became jealous again. Suddenly, the conversation between Ket and Swoi was heard from the loudspeakers. It turned out that the servant, who had been passing by during the day, had secretly recorded it. She hadn't expected Sahop's fiancé to be so cruel, so she had immediately given the recording to Sahop and had it played right there, exposing Ket's true face and helping Swoi clear up the misunderstanding. The villagers, upon learning the truth, scolded Ket for being a cruel woman and chased her out of the village. The beauty contest continued, and the MC asked the contestants to talk about their favorite life motto. Swoi said the words her father had once written for her. "My motto is, the most difficult subject is life, and the best teacher is failure." At this time, Nim may have realized that Swoi was his daughter because no one else knew the content of that letter. After the judges had finished grading, Proi had won 3rd place, Xiao won 2nd place, and the champion position would be decided between Swoi and Sang. The daughter of a wealthy family, after becoming lost, had to participate in a village beauty contest.
although she thought that she
would definitely win, she hadn't expected the winner to be the daughter of a local riche. The other contestants immediately protested, scolding the judges for having been bribed or for not having any brains. The judges were so scared that they ran away. Then the prize was given to Swoi. She was completely surprised to become the winner, and everyone felt that she was very deserving of the title. Nim asked Swoi about what she wanted to ask him before, and Swoi said that she had wanted to find someone who had worked at his farm, but that they were probably not there anymore. She said that she just hoped that everything would go as fate willed. After that, she asked him to allow her to visit Moonlight Valley on his farm, which she had loved when she was little. Nim happily agreed. When Swoi and Pai went to the market, they met Sahop. Swoi thanked him for helping her clear up the rumors. Sahop, who had to go back to Bangkok for urgent business, had come to say goodbye to Swoi and confided that what he had done to Swoi was similar to what he had done to Leyland, and that if time could be turned back, he definitely wouldn't hurt Leyland again. Swoi held Sahop's hand, comforted him, and thanked him. This scene was witnessed by Pai, and he was saddened again. Over here, when they saw Proi coming to buy vegetables, The villagers intentionally gossiped that her brother had killed his ex-wife to get millions of baht in insurance money. Then, he had found a new wife. Proy, angered, stepped forward and punched him. Pai arrived just in time and asked what had happened. In a situation where the villagers were putting pressure on her, Pai asked his sister to apologize, but Proy resolutely refused, even wanting to continue to lunge at him. Swoy advised her to calm down. After Proy apologized, the villagers took things further, demanding that Pai admit that he had harmed his ex-wife before they would forgive him. Finally, Pai couldn't take it anymore and scolded them. Pai's father, having heard it, quickly came to stop him. The villagers loudly accused that the people on Pai's farm were all tyrants. Lao was very pleased with his accomplishments. Swoy advised Pai to tell the truth about Naaman's death so that people wouldn't criticize him. But Pai angrily told her not to interfere in his matters. Swoy went to the customer shop to check on the fabric sales, but was surprised to see Thap and Uncle Pao there. Elsewhere, Nim remembered the boy who had helped Swoy find her key. To clarify the truth, he went to his ex-wife's house in Bangkok. He asked her if their daughter had taken anything important with her before the accident, but his ex-wife angrily said that he had no right to know anything about their daughter and wanted to chase him out of the house. Nat came out and warned Nim not to come back here because his wife wouldn't give him any money. Nim said that he wasn't someone who clung to women for money like him. Nat, feeling insulted, wanted to retaliate but was thrown to the ground by Nim. With his depraved nature, Nat immediately called people to come and take revenge for him. That night, Nim's car suddenly broke down in the middle of the road, and he was unexpectedly attacked by Nat's group, who beat him badly. On the way back, Pai witnessed Nim being beaten and quickly got out of the car to help, but unfortunately, he couldn't fight off the group alone and was beaten unconscious. Swoy fired a shot into the air, demanding that they stop. When Nat's group saw this, they suspected whether Swoy was Leyland. Swoy quickly covered her face and pointed the gun, forcing them to leave. When she learned that Nat had taught Nim a lesson, Witra told him that he didn't need to worry because her sister wouldn't be soft on Nim. It turned out that Leyland's mother had previously misunderstood Nim, thinking that he had sold confidential company information and embezzled public funds, which had worsened her father's health. But Nim also didn't know why his name had appeared on those documents. What they didn't know was that all of this was caused by Witra behind the scenes to get revenge on her sister. After Pai was taken to the hospital, luckily, nothing was serious. Because of a shortage of staff, a nurse asked Swoy to help take care of the patients, including changing their clothes. Swoy looked at her husband's hot body, and her mouth was almost watering. At this time, the police arrived at the hospital, wanting to take Pai to the station because someone had appealed the case of Naaman's death. Uncle Pao, along with Thap, also came to the police station, preparing to find evidence to prove whether Naaman's death was due to an accident or caused by someone. The day before, Proy had shown Swoy Naaman's diary, in which she had written that she shouldn't marry Pai because they would both suffer. Swoy also learned that Naaman had had an affair with another man, but Proy didn't know who the man was. Moreover, the memory card in Naaman's camera had also disappeared. In the evening, when Pai had fallen asleep, Swoy sneaked into his office and finally found the camera's memory card. The next day, when she opened the camera, the video inside shocked her. She immediately backed it up and transferred it to her phone. Nathi, wanting to sell Naaman's land to Uncle Pao, had rummaged through his brother's car looking for clues related to the land documents, but had found Swoy's passport instead and learned her real name was Leyland. Immediately, Nathi went to find Swoy to talk. When the two of them went outside, Pai saw them and immediately had a bad feeling. When Proy came to find Swoy, she saw the camera on the bed and started watching it. Elsewhere, a worker reported to Thap that they had seen people from Pai's farm on Naaman's land. Thap thought that they were planning to sell his sister's land, so he quickly rushed over there. Nathi asked Swoy to persuade his older brother to sell Naaman's land, also saying that his older brother had killed Naaman and therefore had no right to keep that land. Swoy, who now knew the truth, felt very angry hearing this and didn't want to continue talking with Nathi. But as she turned to leave, Nathi said that he had seen her passport and knew her real identity, threatening Swoy that if she didn't want their fake marriage to be exposed, then she had to listen to him. But Swoy, angered, said that her secret couldn't compare to his secret. Pai arrived and wanted to pull Swoy away, but Swoy angrily asked him how long he still wanted to hide the truth. At this time, Thap also arrived, filled with anger, wanting to take revenge for his sister. Swoy told Thap that Pai had lied to everyone and that the person who had taken Naaman out and caused the accident that night was Nathi. Pi asked Swoy to stop, but Swoy was determined to reveal the truth. She showed Thap the video that she had copied onto her phone, which showed Nathi and Naaman as a happy couple. There was also a part of the video where Naaman spoke to Pi, saying that she knew Pi might not accept it right away, but she believed that over time, he would definitely forgive them. When the time came, she would go back to her home country with Nathi and build a small house on her land. Then she would pack her luggage and run away with Nathi. After learning the truth, Thap wanted to attack Nathi, but Pi blocked him, taking all the blame on himself. Nathi, still without remorse, shouted from behind that it was all his brother's fault. Under Swoy's slap, Nathi knelt down and admitted his mistakes in front of everyone, admitting that he was the one who had driven the car with Naaman. When Pi returned home and saw that all of Naaman's belongings had disappeared, leaving only a camera, he received a call from his father, asking him if he knew where his younger brother and Naaman had driven off to. Worried that something bad had happened, Pi immediately rushed out to find them. Nathi, fearing that his older brother would catch up to them and not listening to Naaman's advice, had decided to accelerate to the highest speed. On the way, in order to avoid an old cow, they had an accident, and Naaman, not wearing her seatbelt, had been thrown from the car and passed away instantly. When Pi arrived and witnessed the scene, he was heartbroken. Before he could overcome his pain, the police arrived to investigate the accident. To protect his younger brother, Pi admitted to the police that he was the one who had been driving the car. He didn't want Naaman's honor to be damaged and hoped that his younger brother could go abroad to study smoothly. Thap, in a fit of rage, fired 3 shots into the air to release his anger, then turned and left in pain. Naaman advised him to let go of his hatred and not to blame anyone, because Naaman didn't want the person she loved to suffer. Finally, Nathi reconciled with his older brother, and the two embraced, rekindling their old bond. Swoy learned that Pi hadn't sold Naaman's land because he wanted to fulfill Naaman's dream of building the house that she had always dreamed of. He hoped that even if she was no longer there, Naaman could see it from heaven and feel happy. Swoy apologized for always trying to uncover Pi's secrets. Pi said that it was Swoy's interference that had made everything better, while his own selfish actions had made everything worse. If back then, when Naaman wanted to leave, he had let her go instead of holding her back, perhaps the accident wouldn't have happened. Swoy said that it wasn't Pi's fault and that she believed that Naaman in heaven didn't want him to blame himself like that. Then, she hugged Pi to comfort him. Lao, in order to mislead the villagers and prevent them from choosing Pi's father as the village chief, spread the rumor that his son had killed his wife. His campaign for the election was now definitely hopeless. Pao arrived and asked Lao not to spread rumors and openly proved that Naaman's accident was only an accident and had nothing to do with Pi.
Lao, to get
revenge, incited their farm workers to leave. Thap, angered, had a conflict with him. When Pao arrived, Lao had no choice but to leave, but said that he would be back in a few days to take the remaining workers. Thap said that Lao hadn't just taken the workers, but also their new hotel's construction crew, and had also threatened not to let anyone come there to work. Swoy decided to have Pi find workers to come and help. When Nim invited them to stay and eat, Swoy excitedly agreed immediately. She looked at the picture of Moonlight Valley in the room, remembering that her father's letter had also had the same picture. Nim, seeing that Swoy liked the picture very much, decided to give it to her. But Pi, jealous, took the picture back, saying that he could also take pictures like that. At this moment, he unexpectedly received a call from a worker and quickly left. When Nim drove Swoy home, they exchanged contact information, and their intimate gesture was witnessed by Pi's mother. She blamed Swoy for being someone who had a family, but didn't pay attention to her way of talking and acting. Swoy said that she only regarded Nim as an uncle, and if other people wanted to think in a bad way, it could only mean that they had dirty thoughts. Pi's mother, angered, almost had a stroke. Swoy stepped forward to show her concern but was pushed away forcefully by Pi's mother, causing her to bump into a ceramic vase and break it. Pi's mother once again complained. Seeing that the situation was not good, Swoy quickly found a way to leave. When Pi's mother ran outside, she happened to see Thap taking Proy home and strongly opposed their relationship. She felt that Thap was just Nim's nephew and would only inherit a small piece of land to make a living in the future. She asked her daughter to stay away from Thap. But Swoy felt that Thap was educated and capable, telling her mother-in-law that she shouldn't use assets to judge a person. Pi's mother immediately said that a pauper like Swoy shouldn't interfere in her family's affairs, and said that she had never thought about regarding Swoy as a daughter-in-law. Swoi, angered, wanted to say that she was actually the daughter of a wealthy family, but Pai intervened in time and pulled her away. That night, Pai's mother dreamed that Swoi was performing magic to curse her. Therefore, the next day, she went to the temple to pray for the gods to protect her. Unexpectedly, as she was preparing to leave, she was unexpectedly kidnapped by someone else. To comfort Swoi, who wasn't in a good mood, Little Cow decided to take her to pick mushrooms to sell for money, because only money could make her happy when she was here. Along the way, when the driver got out of the car to check the situation, a group of people suddenly rushed out, beat the driver unconscious, and kidnapped Swoi and Little Cow. After that, Pai received a threatening letter demanding that they withdraw from the village chief election, or they would never see their family again. They immediately went to find Uncle Pao to question him, but Seng said that her father didn't know anything about this. To prove her innocence, she even suggested that her father send people to help search. Pai angrily said that if anything happened to his family, no one would be able to escape responsibility. On the other hand, Seng eavesdropped on Lao's phone call and became certain that her father had kidnapped Pai's mother and was keeping her in the mountains, so she left a note for Pai so they could go and rescue her. At this time, Pai's mother was extremely frightened by a black spider. But Swoi quickly kicked the criminal in the head and then powerfully hit each of them with a stick, knocking them unconscious. While running away, Pai's mother accidentally fell, and Little Cow fainted from sickness. Swoi could only find a hiding place for Little Cow first, then go back to save her mother-in-law. When Little Cow saw her father leading people to find her, but was too weak to call for help, she blew her whistle, but accidentally led the criminals to them. While they were running away, they were blocked by Nim and Thap, and they could only leave Little Cow behind to escape. Pai's mother was touched that Swoi risked her life to come back and save her. When they thought that they had safely escaped, a criminal suddenly appeared, but Pai also arrived just in time. The couple worked together to chase the criminal away. After making sure that her mother-in-law was safe, Swoi finally couldn't take it anymore and fainted, just as Nim caught her in his arms and kept calling out the name Leyland. After going through a life-or-death experience together with her daughter-in-law, Pai's mother finally accepted and reconciled with Swoi, and even personally cooked porridge for her son to feed her. Swoi became the treasure of the whole family, and even Nim sent gifts to show his care. This, in turn, made Pai jealous of his father-in-law. He remembered when Swoi was unconscious, Nim had repeatedly called the name Leyland, so he went to ask Nim why he had called her that. Nim was also honest and shared his suspicion that Swoi looked very much like his daughter, Leyland. When he realized that Nim wasn't his rival, Pai felt happy and revealed Swoi's real identity. Nim was overjoyed to hear this. He told Pai about what had happened to his wife before. They had been separated when they were little, and his daughter was not allowed to meet her father. That was why Leyland couldn't remember what he looked like. He asked Pai to keep the secret until the time was right for him to tell Swoi himself. Thap helped Proi campaign for her father at the market. When Proi lovingly wiped the sweat off his face, her mother witnessed this scene and angrily pulled her home. In the evening, when Swoi saw that Proi was sad, she wanted to talk to her mother about not interfering, but Pai said that it wouldn't help. However, he believed that one day Thap would also move his mother just like Swoi had done. On election day, the number of votes that Uncle Pao and Pai's father received was equal, so they had to decide by drawing lots. Whoever drew the paper that said Village Chief would take the position. Fortunately, good luck smiled on the good people when that paper was drawn by Pai's father. Everyone cheered and celebrated, while Uncle Pao, angry and unwilling, left, constantly scolding Lao for being useless. In order to continue his project, Uncle Pao decided to go to Bangkok. Grandma had prepared a delicious lunch at home to welcome the new village chief. Seeing their whole family gathered together and happy made Swoi remember her own parents. She went alone to the small stream at Pao's farm to sit quietly and think. When Pai came to find her, he asked why Swoi hadn't come to eat. Swoi said that she didn't want to break the warm atmosphere of their family. Although Pai also considered her a member of the family, Swoi knew that she didn't truly belong to this family. She didn't even know who her own family was, because she didn't remember her father's face. If it wasn't because she had promised Nim to keep the secret, Pai might have helped them father and daughter to recognize each other. Swoi knew that Pai used to often bring Naaman here, so she asked if Naaman was his first love. Pai didn't answer, and instead asked Swoi if she still hadn't forgotten Sahop. Swoi also wasn't sure if what she had felt for Sahop before was love, because at that time, she had only wanted someone to take care of her, making her feel like she still had worth. She thought to herself that a person like her probably wouldn't have anyone who truly loved her. Pai comforted her, saying that she had many good points and that if someone took the time to understand her, they would definitely love her. He also admitted that his first love wasn't Naaman but the girl he had met when he was 10 years old. He put a wreath of flowers exactly like that on Swoi's head, showing that no matter how much time passed, he wouldn't forget that little girl and the promise that when they grew up, he would marry her. A kiss landed. The two of them were lost in their own world and shared an intimate moment. And just like that, they were unexpectedly a real husband and wife. Waking up in the middle of the night, Swoi went outside to sit and think. She wasn't sure if she was doing the right thing, because clearly their marriage agreement wasn't supposed to be like this. Pai asked her if staying here was making her unhappy. Swoi quickly said that she was very happy to be with Pai and even wished that time could stop at this moment. But she was worried that after tonight, many things would change. Pai then kissed her on the lips and slyly said that even though he couldn't make time stop, he could make it go back to earlier, and he quickly pulled her into the room to prove it. In Bangkok, when Leyland's mother discovered a problem in the company's ledger and was about to go ask her younger sister, she unexpectedly discovered that her younger sister and her husband were having an illicit affair. She became suspicious and decided to do a DNA test with her daughter's ashes. When she received the results and learned that it wasn't her daughter, Pat accused Witra and Nat of colluding and using someone else's ashes to deceive her. However, her younger sister still denied it and refused to admit anything. Pat then released a picture of the two of them having an affair and decided to go to the police. Witra quickly stopped her, and while they were arguing, she pushed her older sister over, making her fall and become unconscious. After that, she cruelly threw her older sister into the swimming pool. When the servant went outside to clean up, they discovered that the owner was floating on the surface of the water. Swoi at that time, completely unaware that her mother had had an accident, was in a sweet phase at her new home with Pai. Little Calm finally found Swoi's key under the river and asked Little Cow to give it to Swoi, but it was snatched away by Seng's younger brother. While running away, Seng's younger brother fell and dropped the key into the bushes, and then it was swallowed by an old cow. When Swoi chased after him and learned the truth, she was extremely devastated. Pai went to the city to see the house and accidentally saw Lao trying to humiliate Seng, so he quickly stepped in to help. But all of this was actually intentionally arranged by Seng. When she heard that Swoi was coming, she immediately hugged Pai and fell onto the bed, pretending to be intimate with him. Swoi, when she entered and witnessed the scene, was very heartbroken. She slapped Pai and left in tears. Seng was very proud of her plan to divide them, but all of it was just Seng's delusion. In reality, when Swoi arrived, she immediately separated them and warned Seng that she would let it go this time, but if she continued to bother her husband, she wouldn't let it be. On the other hand, she pinched Pai's ear and dragged him outside for the crime of hugging another woman. Seeing Swoi jealous, Pai actually felt happy inside. He explained that there was nothing between him and Seng. Pai promised that he would never do things like that again because he knew how scary his wife was when she was angry. Swoi couldn't resist his handsomeness, so she forgave him. Pai bought the coffee maker that Swoi had always wanted, and she, when she saw it, cheered with such joy that she couldn't say a word. Finally, the old cow had defecated, allowing Swoi to find her safe key again. As she was preparing to confess to Pai about the key, Sahab called to ask about exporting the silk fabric because he was about to return to Bangkok to visit Leyland's mother. The news about her mother's accident made Swoi feel very sad, and she asked Pai to go with her to Bangkok to visit her mother. When they arrived at the hospital, they were informed that outsiders weren't allowed to visit, but Swoi said that she was the patient's daughter. No matter how she explained it, the nurses wouldn't let them in. To avoid exposing her identity, Pai decided to find another way. His self-proclamation as the patient's daughter was reported to Witra. After looking at the security footage, the aunt recognized that it was indeed Leyland and immediately called Pai, but Proy answered the phone instead. She got the address in Bangkok from Proy and sent Nat's people to assassinate Swoi. After learning that Leyland wasn't there anymore, Witra decided to go there herself. She went to Pai, lying that after her older sister had the accident, she was beaten by her brother-in-law every day. She sobbed that if Leyland were here, she would definitely help. Swoi, returning, recognized her aunt and admitted that she was Leyland. Swoi and Pai discussed bringing Witra back to the farm to stay. Hearing this, she laughed triumphantly at her plan. To avoid revealing her identity, Swoi pretended that Witra was their boss, coming to the farm to check on the project and needing to stay for a while. Mrs. Mann was searching for the safe key all over the room, but was discovered by Little Cow. As the little girl was preparing to tell Swoi, Witra rushed over and lied that she was looking for a charger. The villagers, in order to express their gratitude to Swoi for helping them get jobs and income, decided to organize a party for her. Swoi told Pai that she wanted to confess her true identity at the party, not wanting to continue deceiving those who were sincere with her. Pai didn't stop her and also promised to help her explain about having to lie, saying that they would understand and support her. When Witra learned about the party, she asked Nat to prepare a plan. She had thought of a way to deal with Swoi. In the evening, Sang received an anonymous package, and after connecting the USB to her phone, the content inside shocked her greatly. She immediately went to the party to expose Swoi's true face. Meanwhile, Witra stood to the side, waiting to watch the show. When Swoi arrived, everyone was watching a video recording of when she had left home. Sang publicly revealed Swoi's true identity as Leyland. Witra stepped forward to defuse the situation, saying that Leyland was willing to confess and that she hoped everyone would listen to her explanation. She also revealed that she was Leyland's aunt. Grandma suddenly left the party. Was it to inform Nim? Sang scolded Leyland for stealing from her mother and then making up a story to deceive everyone here. Pai asked Swoi why she hadn't told him that the key was stolen, and the villagers started to leave the party and criticize Swoi for being a deceiver, which angered Grandma to the point that she fainted. Swoi wanted to step forward to show concern, but she was stopped by Proi, who also blamed her for deceiving everyone. Witra, realizing that everyone knew the truth, felt that there was no reason to stay and decided to take Swoi away. Pai's mother asked them to leave quickly and said that she didn't want to continue living with the deceiver.
Swoi still
wanted to explain, but Pai's mother angrily said that no one wanted to listen to her fake reasons. Pai stood there like a wooden statue, saying nothing. Little Cow hugged Swoi, not wanting to let her go, but her father pulled her away, telling his daughter not to be sad over a deceiver like that. Seeing the hateful looks from everyone, Swoi felt heartbroken and helpless, and she ran outside in despair. Pai wanted to chase after her, but was stopped by everyone. Witra told Swoi that she should return to Bangkok with her immediately and wait until everyone had calmed down before explaining. Although her wife's departure made Pai very sad, he could only lie on the bed in tears, unable to do anything else. Immediately after Witra and Swoi left the farm, their car broke down in the middle of the road. Swoi saw their pursuers in the rearview mirror and quickly told Witra to run away. Witra pretended to be concerned and told Swoi not to get out of the car, but Swoi didn't listen. She insisted on getting out of the car and running away. While she was being chased, Swoi fell, and after a gunshot, Witra felt very proud and immediately told Nat that she had taken care of Swoi. In the forest, the gunman had caught up to her. Just when Leyland was facing danger, Nim suddenly appeared and saved her. He then interrogated the henchmen to see who had sent them. At this time, Nat called, and Leyland used her own plan, causing the henchmen to lie, saying that everything had been resolved. After reporting, the henchmen struggled to escape and quickly ran away. When Nim caught up, he fired a few shots, causing him to fall into the river. Leyland informed the directors that she had come to fulfill her responsibility as a shareholder and that she wouldn't let the person who had been hunting her succeed to her mother's position. After that, she had the police arrest Nat. Witra pretended to care about her niece, lying that she had been kidnapped by Nat's men that night and threatened with her life, so she had to follow his orders. Leyland asked Witra about the evidence of Nat's embezzlement that she had mentioned before. She gave it to the police to charge Nat, wanting him to be imprisoned for life. Witra lied that Nat had taken and destroyed everything. Leyland, with no other choice, asked Witra to help her testify in court. To put her mind at ease, Witra immediately agreed. But in reality, Leyland didn't trust her aunt at all. When the news of the summons for hiring someone to assassinate her was announced, Pai immediately set off for Bangkok to find Leyland. When he arrived at the company and was about to greet her, Sahop intervened, declaring that he knew the reason Leyland was hiding her identity. At that moment, reporters arrived, asking if the news about Leyland being hunted by Nat was true, and the series of intrusive questions made Leyland unsure how to respond. Sahop quickly stepped in to rescue her and took Leyland away. Pai, disappointed, was about to return when Leyland called him back. He stepped forward and hugged her tightly, releasing his longing. They went to the hospital to visit her mother. Leyland decided to return the safe key. She realized how stubborn she had been before, and she hoped that her mother would wake up soon. Pi was by her side, constantly comforting her. Nim also came to the hospital, feeling that everything was definitely related to her aunt. Leyland said that she didn't believe that her mother had simply slipped and fallen into the pool, and that Witra definitely knew the truth. To clarify the truth, she pretended to trust her aunt and pretended like nothing had happened. Seeing that Nim cared about her so much, Leyland asked him why he was so worried and helpful towards her. Nim said that when Lynn's mother woke up, all the truth would be revealed. Pi decided to stay until Leyland had resolved everything. Sahab came, saying that even if he stayed here, it wouldn't help, and he wanted to take Leyland to the restaurant that they used to go to before. Pi stopped them, saying that Leyland didn't want to go. Sahab revealed that he knew about their fake marriage and told Pi not to pretend to protect Leyland anymore. Pi, not wanting to lose, said that he had broken up with Leyland a long time ago and had gotten engaged to someone else, and that he hoped Sahab would keep his distance from Leyland. Ket, acting like a close friend, pretended to care about Leyland's return.
But she soon didn't want to see her disgusting
face, mocking Ket for being afraid of losing Sahab. Ket challenged her, saying that she wouldn't give up no matter what. Sahab angrily pulled Ket outside. Pi was angry because he had heard Leyland say that she wanted to win Sahab back. When Leyland was about to make amends, she received a call and learned that Nat had been bailed out. They quickly returned home and threw his belongings outside, demanding that he leave the house. Seeing that Nat had no intention of leaving, Leyland pulled out a gun and threatened him. To protect his life, Nat had no choice but to leave unwillingly. Worried about Leyland's safety, Pi decided to stay at the villa with the excuse of protecting her, and he even shamelessly got into Leyland's bed. This guy was too cunning. But at this time, Pi received news that his father had been injured and had been admitted to the hospital, and he quickly said goodbye to Leyland and hurried back. After Leyland chased Nat away, he went to Witra's apartment, and they discussed how to push Leyland out of the company. Witra decided to give the impossible project at the farm to Leyland. If Leyland was actually successful, they wouldn't need to be afraid either. Pi and the villagers would hate her as an enemy, which would allow them to pretend that she had an accident due to the conflict with the villagers. Therefore, Witra told Leyland to use this project to prove her ability to the board of directors. If she didn't complete it, it would be difficult for her to continue as the president. After reviewing the project information, Leyland's mother's assistant recognized that it was the project that they had invested in for Uncle Pao before, and that if it wasn't completed on time, they would have to pay a large contract penalty. Hearing about the penalty fee, Leyland felt surprised but still decided to accept the challenge, not allowing the president's position to fall into other hands. Leyland then contacted Sahab's father to ask for help. After that, she went to the farm to meet with Uncle Pao. When Pi learned that Leyland was the one who had restarted the project, he felt both surprised and disappointed. Leyland told Uncle Pao that she didn't need his help and that she was fully capable of completing the project by herself. Her assistant advised Leyland that she shouldn't because buying land from the villagers would also require his support. Pi blocked Leyland, wanting to talk. He blamed Leyland for knowing that the project was harmful to the villagers and still deciding to restart it. He tried to persuade Leyland to change her mind, but Sahab said that this project was worth billions and that they couldn't just stop it on a whim. Seeing that he couldn't stop her, Pi said that he would fight until the end for the villagers, and Sahab was also willing to become his enemy. Witra arrived at the hospital and discovered that her older sister was no longer there. From the nurses, she learned that her sister had been transferred to another hospital by Leyland. She immediately called to inform that coincidentally, she saw Leyland's mother being taken away. He prepared to follow the ambulance but was stopped by two people. And those people were Thap. After the ambulance left, Thap didn't understand why his uncle would help Leyland's mother, and his uncle revealed that Leyland was his daughter and asked Thap to keep it a secret. He went to his ex-wife's bedside and promised that he wouldn't let anyone hurt their daughter. He confided that he hadn't embezzled or done anything to hurt her and hoped that she would recover soon and give him a chance so that the three of them could live happily together. After taking Mizran there, Nim asked her to take care of Leyland's mother because he had something important to resolve. Pi again sought out Leyland, demanding that she cancel the project here because the villagers wouldn't sell their land to them. Sahab punched Pi and warned him not to threaten or bother Leyland.
But when they
returned, they discovered that their car had been covered with paper with messages scolding them and telling them to leave the village. Sahab thought that it would be best to have Uncle Pao help them. Uncle Pao had been waiting for them for a long time because he was the one who had told others to stick those papers on their car. He knew that without the help of the locals, it would be difficult for them to do anything, so he had used tricks to force them to come to him. As they were preparing to leave, Seng conveyed Pai's mother's message, inviting Leyland to visit the farm. When she brought gifts over, Pai's mother asked her how she planned to handle the fabric project. Leyland said that she didn't want any compensation. She only wanted to thank everyone for accepting her and to express her regret for having hidden her identity. She said that it was the villagers' acceptance that had made her realize her own worth, even though before, she had always said that she couldn't do anything. She felt that this farm was like another home, where she was happy every day, while everyone was being. Moved by Leyland's sincere confession and were ready to forgive her, a wounded villager came in, breaking the warm atmosphere. He said that he had been beaten because he didn't want to sell his land to people from Bangkok. It was probably Uncle Pao who was trying to cause trouble again. These words ignited anger at the scene. Proy, angered by Leyland's act, dropped her gift on the ground and asked her to leave. Seng's servant even threw dirty water on Leyland and incited the villagers to attack her together. Pai quickly rushed forward to protect Leyland and pushed Seng to the ground. Because of that, the villagers also started scolding Pai. The man also started suspecting whether Pai's farm had any connection with Leyland. Leyland quickly explained that the farm had nothing to do with her. Under the villagers' attacks, Leyland cried and ran out of there. Pai was worried that Leyland's departure would cause everyone to misunderstand her even more. But no matter how Leyland explained it, everyone still considered her a liar. She told Pai not to interfere in her affairs anymore, but Pai understood that she was worried that he would also be chased away by the villagers. Leyland hid in a secluded corner to cry, feeling hurt. Pai also blamed himself for not being able to protect the person he loved. He didn't believe that Leyland would do such things, and his father decided to talk to the injured man, saying that Leyland didn't know anything about it. Leyland asked Uncle Pao to stop using wrongful methods and that she would stand on the side of the villagers to hold him accountable. Then she went to the injured man's house to sincerely apologize. But the man refused to accept it and wanted to chase her away. Uncle Pao's son prepared to use a slingshot to hurt Leyland, but Sahop intervened in time and wanted to teach the boy a lesson. The boy said that he wanted to get revenge for his father. Under Pai's persuasion, the boy apologized. Sahop's anger then subsided, but then he warned Pai not to dream, because in the end, Leyland would still come back to him. Pai, angered, punched Sahop. When he saw that the two were about to get into a fight, Leyland quickly stepped forward to stop them and pulled Pai to the side, blaming him for hitting
someone.
Pai asked if their relationship was still the same as before. Leyland said that she was no longer Swoi, so she didn't need to say anything, asking him to understand on his own. When she returned home and saw the servants eating late at night in the yard, she immediately transformed into Swoi, disregarding her image, and joined them for a meal, constantly praising the servants' skills. The servants said that the secret was in the fish sauce from Pai's farm. Seeing the fish sauce, Leyland immediately fell into deep sadness. Two people dressed in black set fire to the house of the injured man. Everyone was gossiping, wondering who they had such a deep feud with. Seng said that it was only a dispute over selling land with Leyland and intentionally incited others, saying that she was truly cruel. This deepened the villagers' hatred towards Leyland even more. Leyland was shocked to see the news media adding fuel to the fire. She was surrounded by reporters downstairs who asked if she was related to the arson attack at the villager's house. Leyland said that she had no connection to it. Pai asked why such a thing would happen if she hadn't done anything. Leyland said that the police would help clarify things. It turned out that the person who had posted the news online was Proy. Thap blamed her, saying that if she didn't have any evidence, then why would she do that, even starting to feel like he didn't recognize her anymore. Before, Proy wasn't someone who would hurt others without a reason. Nati had also come and blamed Proy for having gone too far, demanding that she delete all of the news immediately. Leyland received notice from the police that the person who had been hunting her was ready to give a statement. However, as they were feeling excited about discovering who was behind it, someone unexpectedly arrived to rescue him, telling him that someone would pick him up at the back door. When he went downstairs, he was unexpectedly stabbed by another person and died. Pai once again went to find Leyland, saying that if she wanted to do something harmful to the villagers, she would have to step over him first. They once again had an unpleasant argument because of the project. When he saw the servants making fish sauce from fish for Leyland, Pai reminded them to make some nutritious dishes. Things continued to escalate. Leyland received a call from her assistant, saying that the rumors online had caused the company to suffer losses and that the shareholders wanted to elect a new president. Witra pretended to say that she had explained things to everyone, but they were still not satisfied. The shareholders insisted on having Nat return to manage the company. After learning this, Sahab decided to help her. He proposed marriage with the support of his company, which would be like having a powerful army. The shareholders would definitely have to consider it. After all, the two companies had cooperated on many projects, so they had a certain amount of influence. A picture of Sahab hugging Leyland was taken by Witra and sent to Pai. That night, they both attended an event, and when faced with questions from reporters, Sahab explained that the issue between him and Ket was just a misunderstanding and that the person he had always loved was Leyland. At the same time, Leyland's company would also participate in expanding business into overseas markets with them. This news subtly announced their close relationship. Pai, witnessing this, was heartbroken. He thought that everything she had said before had been a lie. When Leyland was preparing to go home, she was blocked by Pai, who questioned whether she really wanted to escape him, only blaming her for not needing anything besides the company's benefits. But Pai didn't know about the difficulties that Leyland was facing. In anger, Leyland unintentionally pushed him to the ground. Seeing Pai lying on the ground in a difficult situation, Leyland still couldn't bring herself to leave him, so she took him back to the hotel to care for him. Pai pleaded with Leyland to return to the farm with him and relive the happy days of the past. He stepped forward and kissed her passionately. However, Leyland slapped him, saying that the distance between them was now too great. She didn't want to go back to being Swoy, who was always criticized back then. Seeing Leyland being so determined, he handed her the marriage contract, marking the end of their relationship. Leyland took it and tore the contract to pieces right there, and then. From this moment on, there were no more ties between them. When he returned home, Pai locked himself in his room. The sweet memories of the past between the two of them kept appearing in his mind, and tears streamed down his face. Thap, under Nim's orders, was monitoring Uncle Pao. He suspected that the conflict between Leyland and the villagers was definitely caused by Uncle Pao stirring things up from behind the scenes. At this time, Nat went to meet Uncle Pao, proposing that they work together to deal with Leyland. This scene was also witnessed and recorded by Thap. Sang went to meet Pai, wanting to help him forget his pain. At this time, Little Cow arrived with her pet pig. Sang took it, and while playing with the pig, she spoke badly about Leyland. As a result, the pig defecated all over her hands. That pig was definitely getting revenge for its owner. Grandma had made fish sauce with a new flavor and asked Pai to taste it. She said that she had also failed many times, and that it had taken her several months of thought to summarize the recipe. It was like how meeting the right person in life also required time. Pain was for learning, not for holding on to. Under Grandma's comfort, Pai's mood improved significantly. Nathi, also attracted by the aroma, came and said that he had to eat at least 2 bowls of rice to feel satisfied. Grandma teased him, asking if he hadn't gotten his fill while he was in her belly. When their mother was pregnant, she had wanted to eat fish sauce every day without ever getting tired of it. This made Pai remember that Leyland had fainted before, as well as how she had asked the servants to prepare fish sauce and shredded papaya for every meal. He suspected that Leyland was pregnant. Pai hurriedly went to Bangkok, but he witnessed a heartbreaking scene. Sahab was proposing to Leyland and putting an engagement ring on her finger. Although Sahab knew that the engagement wasn't for love, he truly wanted to help Leyland defeat Nat. Pai, heartbroken, turned away to leave, not realizing that Leyland had used the excuse of the ring being too loose to take it off. As she was about to leave, Pai reappeared. He grabbed Leyland, and no matter how much she screamed, he wouldn't let go. Suddenly at this moment, Pai suddenly felt nauseous and quickly ran to the bathroom. In the end, who felt nauseous? Leyland told him that he should go to see a doctor, but Pai asked Leyland if she had gone to get checked, which completely confused Leyland. Pai continued to list the reactions that a pregnant person usually had and asked Leyland if she had experienced them. Seeing that he was being a little strange, Leyland didn't want to pay attention to him and walked away. Pai then directly asked her if she was pregnant. Leyland was a little surprised and quickly said that she wasn't pregnant and told him not to say things like that in public. Pai thought that Leyland was worried that she would lose value for having been intimate with a country bumpkin like him and that it would affect her engagement with Sahab. Leyland, hurt, but still stubborn, said that it was indeed like that, and that she needed someone worthy of her. Just recently, upon learning that Leyland was planning to marry Sahab, Ket had kidnapped her to the forest, wanting to force her to break up with Sahab. but they were encountered by the assassins that Nat had sent. Leyland decided to step forward to let Ket escape. When Leyland was in danger, luckily Pi arrived in time to save her. Sahop, angered, demanded that Ket stop bothering Leyland because they had already set the date for their engagement. Thap told Leyland that Nat and Uncle Pao were plotting together to harm her. Proy arrived and was angry when she learned that Thap was always helping Leyland. Leyland chased after her to explain, hoping that Proy wouldn't resent Thap because of her. Sahop asked Pi to choose the best silk for Leyland, wanting her to have a memorable engagement and wedding. When Pi once again appeared with nausea symptoms, Leyland asked the servants about Pi's health. The servants said that it was possible that he was experiencing pregnancy symptoms for his wife. Leyland then used a pregnancy test and saw the result: 2 bright red lines. She quickly informed Sahop and wanted to call off the engagement. But Sahop reminded her not to forget the true purpose of the engagement, which was to protect her mother's company, and promised that he would quickly kick Nat out of the company after the engagement. Nim told Leyland that he was looking for the phone of the assassin who had fallen into the river. If they could find that phone, they would have evidence to incriminate Nat, and then Leyland wouldn't need to force herself to marry Sahop. That night, looking at the engagement fabric that Pi had given her, Leyland couldn't hold back her deep sorrow and started to cry. Pi also couldn't hold back his tears as he looked at Leyland's engagement invitation. Both of them were in pain. The next day, Sahop saw that Leyland was always melancholy and asked her if she was experiencing morning sickness again. Ket unintentionally overheard this and was certain that the child wasn't Sahop's, and she prepared to go and tell his parents immediately. But Sahop chased after her and stopped her. Remembering the time that Leyland had risked her own safety to save her in the forest, Ket felt a little regretful in her heart and didn't continue to expose her. At the engagement ceremony, Pi watched Sahop put the ring on Leyland's finger, making both of them remember the scene where they had gotten married before. Their eyes met, and tears blurred their vision. At this point, Pi was crying like a child. He painfully turned away and left. Leyland found Pi drunk and wanted to tell him about her pregnancy. But Pi, thinking that Leyland wanted to show off her happiness, decided to step onto the elevator, not giving Leyland a chance to talk. Nat gave his master's thesis to his older brother, hoping that it could help Leyland's project and believing that it would find a way out. Pi immediately gave it to Leyland, hoping to resolve her project while still meeting the needs of the villagers. At this time, Leyland received a call from Thap, informing her that they had found the henchman's phone. But on the way to meet Leyland, Thap was ambushed. Although he fought bravely, he was still overpowered by Lao and had the phone taken from him. Then, a gunshot finished Thap. Proy accidentally witnessed this scene. Witra found her older sister and took her home. Leyland asked her newly awake mother if she remembered who had hurt her. Leyland's mother, with a headache, didn't remember anything, but was worried about Nat. Leyland told her mother that she had chased Nat away. But Leyland's mother didn't believe that Nat would do that. At this time, Nim angrily blamed her for not trusting her daughter. He didn't allow his daughter to continue being with a mother who only knew how to love. He wanted to take Leyland away, but Leyland's mother slapped Nim and finally admitted that Nim was Leyland's father, scolding him for being a selfish man and demanding that he leave immediately. Leyland found her father at the hotel, blaming him for hiding the truth from her. Nim, in turn, wanted his daughter to return home so that there wouldn't be any conflicts with her mother. When Leyland tried to stop her father, she unexpectedly fainted. When she woke up, she learned that her father had returned to the farm. Leyland was not happy and had an argument with Pi. They once again broke up on a not-so-pleasant note. Leyland's mother organized an urgent shareholder meeting, deciding to resign as president and remove Leyland from the company. The project that was in her hands would be transferred to Witra. After discussing the farm project with Pi, she decided to take Pi's advice to help the villagers and asked Witra to contact Pi about it. Leyland asked her mother why she had kicked her out of the company. Leyland's mother said that she didn't want to waste her time on someone who couldn't do anything and kept accusing Nat. Hearing her mother evaluate her like this, Leyland felt very hurt. Knowing that it was impossible for Nat and Leyland to reconcile, Leyland's mother decided to break up with Nat. After that, she expressed that she wanted to take Leyland abroad and transfer all of her shares and her position as president to Witra. Witra was overjoyed, completely unaware that this was a clever move that Leyland's mother had calculated beforehand. She pretended that she would give all of her shares to her younger sister, but on the condition that her husband returned the shares that he was holding. The two of them, who were having an affair, had completely fallen into the trap. Under Witra's persuasion, Nat didn't hesitate to sign the share transfer papers and accepted a check for $10 million. When Nat was about to leave, Leyland's mother immediately changed her attitude, declaring that she would put the person who had hired someone to harm her daughter in prison. Nat angrily said that she was slandering him. Leyland's mother then revealed the evidence, which shocked Nat. He didn't understand how they had obtained the evidence even though he had destroyed the phone. Pi appeared and declared that he was the one who had provided it. It turned out that before the phone had been snatched, Thap had removed the SIM card and sent it to Proy. Pi, using the excuse of discussing the project with Leyland's mother, exchanged the recording of the phone call between Nat and the perpetrator with her. Leyland's mother had known the truth for a long time, but had pretended not to remember anything, waiting to get evidence against Nat. Leyland's mother also knew that her younger sister had collaborated with Nat, but because she was her younger sister, she didn't want to put her in jail. However, her younger sister had no intention of changing and even harbored ill intentions towards her older sister. When Leyland rushed in, Witra pretended to commit suicide, which made Leyland's mother decide to give her another chance to start over and asked Leyland not to be angry at her aunt anymore. To compensate for her younger sister, Leyland's mother decided to give her the position and shares as promised. On the other hand, Pai's father had also reported to the police to have Uncle Pao and Lau arrested. Proy slapped Lau hard, getting revenge for Thap. Lau boastfully said that he wouldn't go to prison and that by now, Thap was probably in hell. But at that time, Thap appeared, safe and sound, and told Lau that he would be in prison for life to atone for his crimes. Sahab took the initiative to call off the engagement and apologized for having hurt her again when they had broken up. Leyland felt happy to have met a kind man like him and said that they would still be best friends afterward, and returned the ring to him. Although Sahab was a little reluctant, he hoped that Leyland would be happy. Leyland went to find Pi, wanting to show him the ultrasound and confess that she was pregnant. However, Pi said that he wanted to go back to the life before he had met her. Therefore, he decided to step back and let Leyland live the life that she deserved. Leyland sent Pi her new ideas for the project, hoping that it could help the people in the village and promising not to disturb his life anymore. As they parted ways, neither of them could bear to leave. Although it seemed like this was a release for their love, in reality, their pain still couldn't be erased. Witra, having completely lost her mind, decided to eliminate everyone. After that, she put medicine into 2 cups of coffee. Soon after, Leyland's mother had fallen asleep. Leyland, certain that Witra had done something to her mother, demanded that she stop the car immediately. While they were struggling, Leyland was pushed over and also became unconscious. Witra then used the excuse of helping Nim and her older sister resolve their misunderstandings to set up a meeting with them in a secluded forest, then ordered her people to beat them unconscious and imprison all 3 of them together. When Leyland's mother woke up, she finally saw her younger sister's true face. She hadn't expected that her younger sister could be so cruel. Witra then criticized her older sister for never considering her to be a part of the family, making Leyland's mother very sad. Just when Witra was preparing to carry out her final act, Pi unexpectedly appeared and stopped her. It turned out that Leyland hadn't actually drunk the coffee. Taking advantage of Witra going to pay, she had secretly poured some of it out, and while they were in the car, she had called Pi. Pi had heard all of their arguments. After that, she pretended to be unconscious and sent her location to Pi. Luckily, the police arrived in time and arrested Witra. Pi also learned that Leyland was pregnant. When he returned to the farm, Sahab told him the reason why he and Leyland had gotten engaged, as well as the fact that Leyland was pregnant. When Pi learned that Leyland was carrying his child, he immediately went to find her and explained that he had been lying and that, in reality, being with Leyland was the happiest time of his life. Just when he was about to kiss his wife, his mother-in-law unexpectedly appeared, interrupting them. The mother and daughter-in-law also resolved their misunderstandings and reconciled. It turned out that when Leyland's mother had woken up, she had accidentally overheard the conversation between Witra and Nat, and she had learned that her younger sister had been the one who had harmed Nim back then. Leyland's new project had provided more job opportunities for the villagers, minimizing the damage to them, and people were starting to willingly sell their land to her. Thap also took this opportunity to propose to Proy, making Pi happy like a fool. Pai's mother also officially accepted her daughter-in-law and apologized for having treated her poorly in the past. Seng, at the market, was promoting her skincare products, but everyone avoided her. Her servant had also followed a rich person, changed her life, and started mocking Seng. However, Leyland wanted to help, and she decided to sell Sang's skincare products at her company. Leyland gave the safe key as a dowry to Pai, wanting him to marry her again. But Pai said that he didn't need anything, and that she was enough. 6 months later, Leyland suddenly went into labor, but the road was flooded and they couldn't go anywhere. Grandma decided to deliver the baby at home herself. Pai kept nagging by her side, and finally, Leyland kicked him away. Luckily, a doctor from the clinic arrived in time and helped Leyland deliver the baby safely. Everyone was overjoyed and came to congratulate her and give gifts to the little princess. The whole family took a commemorative photo together. Some time later, Leyland went abroad to open the safe, but inside was an album. For Leyland, the wonderful memories between her and her parents were the most precious things. Pai also promised himself that he would create the happiest moments for their children. This is where the story ends. Don't forget to like and subscribe to not miss out on more amazing videos.
For now, goodbye, and until next time.